Normative male alexithymia is a term psychologists use to describe an average guy's inability to feel his own emotions. After being emotionally numb for 20 years and spending the last 6 years researching why, I can tell you it runs far deeper than most men realize. So today I want to share exactly why men lose their feelings and, more importantly, how can you get them back. I've also made a free quiz to really understand the root cause of this numbness in men. Do check it out below. But before that, let me share how it affected me and why it even matters. 6 years ago, I was completely alexithymic. Alexithymia is defined as the inability to feel, understand, and express one's emotions. For 20 years of my life, I was so disconnected from my feelings that my average state was that of numbness. I didn't feel a lot of pleasant emotions like excitement or joy, but I didn't feel unpleasant emotions like sadness or hurt either. Here are the ways this numbness manifested in my life and how it shows up for most men. I used to feel like I was living on autopilot, just going through the routine flow of life without a personal will or identity. Because I was disconnected from my own emotions, I couldn't understand what others were feeling either, which led to poor social skills and lack of connection. Furthermore, I felt purposeless, so there was nothing that was internally motivating to do. The reason for that is emotions are like your taste buds. They tell you what you like or dislike. When your emotions are numb, you lose that ability to understand what genuinely feels good or bad to you and not others. I used to procrastinate a lot, which I later found is not really a problem of laziness, but rather of emotional management. And this felt very validating. It also made me more prone to indulge in escapist activities like social media and eating junk. But research actually shows that men who are alexithymic, because they don't know how to deal with unpleasant emotions, are much more likely to use substances to cope with them and as a result get addicted. But thankfully, I devoted the last 6 years to address this concern and become less alexithymic. I developed emotional intelligence and that changed my life. It improved the areas of my life that I never thought would be connected to emotions or with this issue. And hence, I believe all men must address this. Here are the changes I noticed. My motivation levels skyrocketed, especially internal motivation. I don't need external pressure to do things that are necessary for me, at least nowhere near as much as before. I know what things I like or dislike because I know who I am. I have built an identity. I have a purpose in life, a North Star that I move towards consistently. I rarely indulge in escapist activities unless I'm feeling very stressed, but even then, I do it consciously, as opposed to earlier when it was compulsive and automatic. I understand people and their emotions better, much better, because I understand my own emotions. Essentially, I developed empathy and the quality of my relationships improved drastically. I am able to share my emotions more openly and understand the emotions that are being shared. This allowed me to develop some really authentic and intimate relationships. And finally, the juice of life, my excitement and joy returned. Which brings me to why men even lose their feelings. About a year ago, I visited my nephew, whom I love dearly. We had an amazing time together. We were playing around, having fun. And by the end of the day, it was time for me to leave. And we all could see that he was about to cry. His dad, in the most loving tone ever, told him, Beta, you shouldn't cry. Let Fussy go. He'll be back soon. Now, even the nothing about what my brother said, or even the way he said it, was traumatic. It was damaging to my nephew's psychology. Here's why. The same way a child suffers when their physical needs of food and safety are not met, they also suffer when their emotional needs are not met. There are two primary emotional needs that cause men to develop emotional intelligence, and when these are not met, men lose connection with their feelings. The first one is the need for emotional regulation. When you're very young and you feel strong, unpleasant emotion, that stresses your nervous system. And because your baby nervous system isn't capable of regulating that strong, unpleasant emotion by itself, you need an adult to do that for you. Only when adults repeatedly help you manage unpleasant emotions, by comforting and soothing you, your nervous system builds the skill of regulating itself from unpleasant emotions and stress. But when that doesn't happen, your nervous system never develops that skill to self regulate and keeps accumulating stress. You become this pressure cooker without an outlet to release the steam. What's worse is when instead of comfort and soothing, boys get more stress in the form of disapproval for feeling certain negative emotions. When my nephew was subtly and lovingly disapproved for crying, what message do you think he received? Something along the lines of, my father does not like it when I cry, so it's not good to feel sorrow, and I must push it down at all cost because I can't bear to be disapproved by him. Now, these subtle messages, if repeated over time, would cause my nephew to subconsciously push his negative emotions down, become disconnected from them, and hence turn alexithymic to some extent. Unfortunately, most, if not all, boys receive these messages growing up in our society. Think back to your childhood and reflect to how often were you told not to cry or to be scared like a girl or something along these lines. The second need is even subtler, that is the need for emotional attunement. It's a child need for his emotions to be recognized, understood, and validated by his parents. For example, you come home sad from school and your mom immediately notices that and says, "Looks like you're sad, what's up?" She recognized your sadness, validated it, and helped you understand it by being curious. As opposed to you come home sad and no one notices your sadness, much less validate and ask you about it. Emotional attunement is subtle but extremely crucial because if you think about it, a child does not know what they feel. They learn about their feelings by the reaction of those around them. Just have a look at this video.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
The dad knocks on the door, responds as if the baby hit her head, and the baby immediately starts crying. She knew to cry not because she was feeling the pain in her head, but because of her father's response. When you grow up and these emotional needs of yours are repeatedly violated, that causes the emotional parts of your brain to not develop fully. This is what makes most men colorblind to their own emotions because their emotional palette was not sufficiently nurtured when they were growing up. Here's how I brought my emotions back. Imagine you're on a date with a strange woman and you'd like to get to know her better. How do you do that? By ignoring her, judging her, or not listening to her at all, or by being curious, asking her questions, and being present with her? I hope your answer is the latter option. The same is the case with your emotions. Right now, your emotions are a stranger to you, and you're ignoring them, you're judging them, and not listening to them. The way to get better with them is by being curious, listening to them, and being present with your emotions. Well, then, how do you do that? The approach I use to build emotional intelligence is this revolutionary method developed by researchers in Yale University. It goes by the acronym of RULER. The better you are at these skills, the less alexithymic you are and the higher your EQ is. Let me explain them for you. R stands for your ability to recognize what you're feeling in any moment, not just intellectually, but also in your body. That's more important. U is for understanding why you're feeling what you're feeling, what triggered it. L stands for labeling your emotions using specific words. That's called emotional granularity. You're getting more granular with the words you use for what you're feeling. For instance, an emotionally mature man could only say something like, "I am feeling like shit," when he's really feeling regretful about something he did. See, that's more granular. E stands for healthy expression of feelings. R stands for regulating your emotions to reach an equilibrium. Now, you might be saying, okay, thanks for dumping all of this information on me. How the fuck am I supposed to build all these skills? Don't worry, I got your back. Here are the core 2 science-backed habits that I used in the last 6 years to grow my emotional intelligence exponentially using the ruler approach. The first habit or tool, I should say, does the heavy lifting for ruler skills because it was made by the same group of researchers who developed Ruler. It's this free app called How We Feel, and I love it so much. I suggest it to every single client of mine and people I love, and by this time, every other video of mine. How we feel is basically the emotion wheel in the form of an app, only much better. It helps you label what you're feeling using the exact specific words, which is the LF ruler. Not only that, but the feature I love the most is the body scan thingy, where it helps you recognize where exactly is it that you're feeling the emotion in your body. What's the nature of the sensation? That's the R of ruler. And frankly, the most important skill I developed with respect to my emotional wellness, my emotional intelligence in the last 6 years. And the second habit is taking a shit on a piece of paper. Let me explain. It's called brain dump, and it's basically sitting with a pen and a paper and just writing everything that is going on in your head and body without any filters or judgment, no matter how illegal it is. The first time I tried brain dump, I was feeling absolutely humiliated because of something that happened with my friends, and I just wrote and wrote in my humiliation and anger until my hand stopped. I let out all of the horrifying, all of the disturbing things I wanted to say and do. And trust me, it was pretty dark and definitely illegal. And when my hand stopped around after 15 minutes, it felt so light. It was almost like I was floating. That is the power of healthy expression. I personally do brain dump whenever I'm feeling overwhelming emotions instead of pushing them down, or even just when I want to get something out of my head. And in the last 6 years, it has helped me understand myself to the extent that I never imagined. It's because writing is one of the best habits for healthy expression and regulating your emotions from ruler. It actually even helps me recognize what I'm feeling, because as I keep dumping, more and more emotions come up that if I didn't write, I wouldn't even have realized I was feeling. So the next time you're feeling overwhelming emotions, take out a pen, a piece of paper, and just let it out. But these are just 3 steps from my entire system for men to end emotional numbness. So if you want to cure this once and for all, click here to watch this video next, where I share exactly that.